This weekly series of short performances is brought to you by the Gilboa Historical Society and made possible by a grant from the New York State Council on the Arts. This week, we present storyteller Nancy Marie Payne's Nobel Peace Prize winners. Nancy Marie Payne has been an educator and is a professional storyteller who enjoys sharing stories of strong women. In this presentation, she tells the story of a Kenyan woman breaking through expectations and winning a Nobel Peace Prize.
I'm Nancy Marie Payne. I'm a storyteller and I'm with the Story Circle of the Capital District, and our home base is Proctor's in Schenectady. I want to share some stories of the season. Not the ones you're expecting, but something different. This time of year, the Nobel Committee is meeting. Some decisions have been made, some decisions will be made. This Nobel Prize started in 1901 through the will of Alfred Nobel, a Swedish entrepreneur, industrialist, and inventor. Nobel had over 355 patents. He was a very rich man. And since he had no wife or children, he bequeathed this money to the establishment of a Nobel jury that would come together once a year and present 5 awards. The awards were in physics, were in chemistry, were in medicine, literature, and peace. These awards have been awarded every year, but there have been some years when a certain topic was not awarded, maybe because nothing happened that was worthy of the award that year. I'm going to just briefly share with you some of the Americans who have won the Peace Prize, which will be awarded in December. And then I would like to zero in on one recipient. There were 5 American people who were awarded the Nobel Peace Prize. The first one was Woodrow Wilson, and he did it. He was granted this because of his work after World War I with bringing countries together and working toward communications and peace. The second one was awarded to Alfred Nobel. Alfred was the Secretary of State, and in 1929, he was awarded the prize in conjunction with another man whose name was Brand, and they were responsible for the Brand-Kellogg Act. And this was a pact. It was signed by every major nation in the world and many of the minor ones who promised no aggressive war they would not take part in. And I'm sure you're sitting there thinking, well, that didn't work. And unfortunately, it did not. The third American was Henry Kissinger in '73. And Kissinger was a double recipient of this award, the second recipient. The other one was L.E. Duc Tho, who was a Vietnamese representative. And Duc Tho refused the Peace Prize, saying he would accept it if and when there was a lasting peace. The fourth American was Al Gore, for his research and his book, An Inconvenient Truth. That was 2007. And in 2009, Barack Obama got the Nobel Peace Prize for his work on bringing nations together and communicating and opening channels that had never been opened before. The first woman to win the Peace Prize was an Austrian countess who had, in her younger days, worked as a secretary for Nobel and was his friend all his life. She actually suggested that to him, he had 4 prizes in mind. She suggested that there be a Peace Prize. And after his death, she indeed won that prize for a book that she wrote on the consequences of war. But I'm going to come up to an earlier date, 2004. The winner for that prize was a woman from Kenya, Africa. Her name was Wangari Maathai, And when Wangari's husband divorced her in the 1980s, he did it on the grounds that she is too well educated and too difficult to control. Young Wangari's first memories are of sitting on a piece of cloth under a shade tree, watching her mother do the farming. There, next to the earth, hearing and seeing the animals around her. In Kenya, in the 1940s, women had no value. Their job was to marry, to be the wife, to bear children, and to watch the immediate surroundings of the home. Women did not go to school. Girls did not go to school unless there was something extraordinary about their family or their situation. So Wangari was not going to be educated. Her father was determined that she would follow in her mother's footsteps and work in the fields. But Wangari's older brother saw something in his little sister, saw a potential that it would be a crime not to foster. And so he talked to his father, and he convinced his father to send 7-year-old Wangari to the mission school. Wangari lived up to the promise her brother had made. She excelled. She got all the honors up through high school. And when she graduated from high school, her record was so good that she was offered a full scholarship to a university in Kansas. This university in Kansas was run by the same group of women who ran the school that she was in Kenya. Her father was busting his buttons, but she would come home and she would get married and she would have a family. Imagine this 19-year-old girl who went barefoot most of her life, coming to America in the 1960s. Imagine America in the 1960s, a country in unrest, a country in revolt, a country with conscientious objectors, people moving to Canada, but people on the streets protesting the war and the draft and not being put in jail. Now, some went to jail, but they were breaking laws. Those who were just protesting were not harassed. This was unheard of to young Wangari. To see in the newspapers criticism of the government and not see those newspapers shut down. This was an impression that she would take with her her whole life. She graduated from that college in Kansas with a bachelor's degree in biology. She then moved to Philadelphia and went to college there and graduated with a master's degree in animal husbandry. She then went back to Kenya and joined Kenya University, where she got her doctorate in animal anatomy. Very few women in the college, no female professors, and she comes out on top. She's to be used by the government. Well, not the government so much, but the college sees her value and offers her a teaching position. First female to have a teaching permission in the college in Nairobi, in Kenya. Now, there are other educated women in Nairobi, and she joins a group, the Women's Conference of Nairobi. And their task was to go out to the countryside and see women, girls, and help them with nutrition, help them with other medications, help them take care of their families, maybe get some education for them. It was the first time Nairobi is sent out, she is shocked. She is sent to a village much like the village she grew up in, and yet totally changed. For the farmer is now being paid by the government to grow coffee and tea. so that the country has exports. In order to do this, larger fields have got to be made. Cut down the trees. These crops being planted year after year after year are depleting the soil. Other crops won't grow. And the other crops they're growing are the food for their own families. They're coming up in small numbers in wilted vegetables and fruits. There's just no nutrition there. Plus, the women have to walk farther and farther every day to get to the streams, which are drying up from all of the runoff from these crops. No trees for wood. No wood for heating their houses. No wood for cooking their food. Miles and miles of walking for the girls every day. Nobody's going to school. Well, the boys are going to school. So Wangari says to the women, "What is your most immediate need?" And they said, "Wood. Wood, so we can cook the food and we can heat the houses." And Wangari says, "Well, there's a solution to that. Plant trees." Well, no one knew how to plant a tree. Wangari couldn't believe it. She went back to her council of women and she got their support. And other women joined with her and they started the Green Belt movement. And she's not a revolutionary. She wants to feed people. She wants to educate people, as they all do. So they go back to these villages and they teach the women how to go out to the trees that are there but miles away and collect seeds. How to handle and preserve these seeds. How to plant these seeds and nurture them. How to start a nursery. And then how to plant these trees around the village. Trees that will grow fast for firewood. Trees that will take longer for fruit and shade. It's not a revolutionary idea, but it was. She was criticized by the government. Only trained foresters can plant trees. It's ridiculous. Now, when a woman or any person starts to do something that they see is worthwhile, it mushrooms. Well, if I can do this, I can do this. The women are being educated. They can read and write. If they can read and write, they can keep a ledger. They can work with numbers. They can make a business of growing trees. These women go out and out and out and out until almost all of Kenya has a group of these Green Belt women. They are healthier now. They are growing food to feed their children and getting some flesh back onto their bodies. They are seeing the importance of having healthy babies. They start healthy, they will be healthy. You won't have as many deaths. And women are taking control. They are hiring men to work in their forestries. This does not go unnoticed by the government. She is harassed, Wangari. These women are harassed. You can't do these things. Get into your house, go back into your kitchens, be quiet. It doesn't work. Once you've seen what you can do and seen your worth, you can't go back. And so this Green Belt movement moved into politics. Wangari was reluctant to do this, but she saw the necessity of doing this. Change has got to come from within. In the 1990s, she was imprisoned. She was beaten, but it did not stop the movement. There was a total changeover in Kenya of government in 2002, and the newly elected president saw the worth of this woman. He brought her into his cabinet and made her an under-department director for the environment, for farming, and for wildlife. She excelled, and the women under her excelled, following her lead. They made changes. She helped to write the Bill of Rights for the new constitution for Kenya. She was sent to the UN as a representative for Kenya. She traveled the world and was listened to in India, in China, in the Southeast. She even had Green Belt organizations in America. Wangari Maathai was out there, doing things she never expected to do. She never expected to be political, but she was. She was nominated for the Nobel Peace Prize in 2004. And there were people who objected to this. Why are you nominating a woman who plants trees, a tree hugger, for the Peace Prize? Peace prizes are given to people who stop wars, people who bring nations together. But the Nobel Committee said, we are redefining peace, and the environment is one pathway to peace. In her acceptance speech, Wangari Maathai said, I accept this humbly for the women of Kenya, the women of Africa, the women of the world, and all the girl children, that they may see their worth, see their potential, and strive for it. One of my heroes, Wangari Maathai. Thank you.